All right, Gemini 3 has landed, and this is a very, very powerful model. Give me 10 minutes in this video. I'm going to run through pretty much everything you need to know currently. The model's only been out for about 24 hours, 48 hours, so it's still very new. People are still trying it out, forming their opinions on it. But I've pretty much been through every single release note, watched a ton of videos, ton of different use cases, and played around with it myself. And I'm just going to run you through everything that you need to know as someone who's using AI regularly for work and running a business. So my newsletter went out this morning. These guys are the first to get it. Before I get into the specifics, some context. AI has been good enough to write emails, draft social posts, create ad copy and stuff for a while now. We're well past that point, but the models aren't going to get drastically better at those sort of tasks. The big leap forward is in reasoning, multimodal understanding, and what it can do as an agent, which is what Gemini 3 has really, really excelled in. So the key things with Gemini 3 is it's much smarter at hard problems. So if we look at the benchmarks here, a lot of these won't really mean anything to you, but there's a couple ones. One of the ones that I'm looking at here is the agentic coding one. So you can see Claude Sonnet 4.5 is still leading with agentic coding. But you've got this one here, which is the Screen Spot Pro. So as you can see, Gemini scored 72.7% compared to these other measly scores from the other models. And ScreenSpot Pro, basically screen understanding. So when you provide it with images and a screen, like computer screen and stuff, it can completely understand what's going on. So it knows what buttons to press, it can understand UI and everything. So this is really, really important because Gemini 3, the model, Gemini's always excelled the best at multimodal understanding compared to all the other AI models. So pretty much every other model, LLMs like ChatGPT, Claude and stuff, they're just text inputs. You can input images and stuff, but it struggles to really understand it. You can upload a video to ChatGPT and ask it about the video, and it can't interpret it. Gemini's always excelled at that, but Gemini 3 takes that to another level. So it's almost like an LLM with eyes. You can upload full videos and it really understands it. So jumping into the release video, you can really sort of see here. Let me just play this.
Since the beginning, our Gemini 1 models could see, hear, understand vast amounts of information, and natively generate across modalities. Gemini 2 took the next step with advanced reasoning, enabling AI agents to think, code, and take action. We're taking all of this to the next level with Gemini 3. Gemini 3 is the strongest model in the world for multimodality and reasoning. It's our most intelligent model that helps you bring any idea to life.
So that's one of the core value propositions of Gemini 3 is it's got this really strong multimodal understanding. So I'll dive into shortly about what that means practically with use cases, but all you need to know is that it can understand videos, audio, text, in images and stuff, much better. And that's demonstrated clearly with this Screen Spot Pro results compared to the other models. Some of the other things that stand out is the vending bench, which is one of my favorite tests. So the vending bench test is where they basically let the AI models run a vending machine company for, I don't know the exact amount of time, I think it's a month or something. And they have to order in stock, manage inventory, adjust pricing, and basically run this business as an agent autonomously with no human help. And then the scores are measured based on how much profit the agent makes by the end of it. And Claude Sonnet made $3,000, that's the closest competitor, compared to Gemini's $5.4 thousand. So that's one that I like to look at. It just sort of represents the agent's ability to work autonomously on tasks over a long period of time. But you look at most of these other benchmarks and it's just smashed every other model out of the park. So it's much, much smarter at hard problems. And on the AI-ME math test, Gemini scored a perfect 100% when allowed to use code. So this means that anything mathematically, engineering related, Gemini 3 is going to be the best model to use. And this is sort of what I was just running through, is it's an LLM with eyes essentially. So you can upload screenshots, videos, screen recordings, etc. and ask Gemini questions about them, and it will actually understand what it's looking at. And this also matters for anyone building agents or automations that interact with websites, apps, or visual interfaces, because it can really tell what it's looking at. Alongside the release of Gemini 3, Google's also released their new developer tool called Google Anti-Gravity. And this looks, I'm not a vibe coder or developer. I don't really use any vibe coding tools, so I might completely butcher this. But from my understanding, it's a similar sort of thing to those terminals you can use Claude Code, Cursor, etc. With the release of Gemini 3, you're seeing everyone talk about the best AI model. And not gonna lie, probably the title of this video is something about the best AI model. But a better way to think about it is rather than which model is best, it's which is best for which workflow. So a general rule of thumb that I'm following at the moment, I got this from another YouTuber, Nate something, I'll link it below, but he says, and he's 100% right on, as a general rule of thumb, it's not going to be perfect for every task, but for see and do tasks, Gemini 3 is now your best option. So anything involving screens, video, dashboards, long, messy content. And that was one thing I forgot to mention. One of the other key releases of Gemini, which has always been a strong point, is its large context window. So it's got a 1 million token context window, which was the same as the last model 2.5 Flash. And this basically means it can, like, you can put in way more inputs. So you can have like way longer prompts, submit way longer documents, you can upload longer videos, etc., etc. So for seeing and doing tasks, Gemini 3 is strong. But for writing and talking tasks, Claude and ChatGPT are the other strong ones. So for your persuasive writing, emails, landing pages, etc., everyday chat, these models still tend to be better. So what does Gemini 3 unlock for businesses? So before Gemini 3, AI worked mostly on text, but now it can see. So that opens up workflows that were previously not possible. And combining its multimodal capabilities with its super large context window, you can now run workflows like, here are 50 TikToks. What patterns do you see in the winners versus the losers? Find the best hooks in this 40-minute video recording and suggest 5 short-form clips. Compare high CTR versus low CTR ads. What's visually different? On the sales front, you can say, summarize this discovery call, turn it into a one-page brief. List objections, desired outcomes, and language the prospect use. You can upload your entire sales calls. And rather than before, you'd have to transcribe it, and then the model can't actually pick up on any visual cues. It's just going off transcription with no tone. Gemini can detect tone, can see facial expressions, etc. This is super powerful. And for founders, things like, given this deck plus KPI table plus monthly recurring revenue chart, what are 3 priorities you set for the next quarter? You can just dump in a lot more info. Because before Gemini's really good multimodal capabilities, if you wanted to input data into an LLM, like you could still do some of this stuff with the existing models, but you would have to take the original outputs like a call recording and then turn them into different inputs like a transcript. Or if you had a dashboard, you'd have to like get it put into like a nice formatted Excel so the model can actually understand the data. And then you also ran into the context window. So if you had lots and lots, like years and years of profit and loss charts and stuff, the model would start to lose context when you uploaded large volumes of data, which Gemini 3 fixes now. So where does this fit into your stack? If you just open Gemini 3 and start chatting with it, write a few emails, ask it some questions, you're probably gonna think this isn't that different. Because the real unlocks, like I said, show up when you start to feed it different inputs. Across the board, from expert opinions, other YouTubers, people on X, the consensus is Gemini 3 is not that much better at writing than any other models. And a lot of people, myself included, love Claude and the Anthropic models for writing. But I have heard really good things about Grok 4.1 for creative writing and GPT 5.1 thinking. But writing is very subjective, and what I think sounds good is going to be completely different to what you think sounds good. So with writing, I recommend playing around with a couple of different models and seeing which one you find best. But I haven't heard amazing reviews on Gemini 3 for writing. But for research, problem solving, visual analysis, or anything involving complex multi-step tasks, Gemini 3 Pro is the clear leader for now. Now, in terms of coding and development, I haven't really talked too much about it yet because I'm not super well versed on that world. I'm not a coder or a developer yet. It's something I want to get into and explore more. But the general consensus I'm getting is that it's very fast, incredible front-end designer. So a lot of people are saying that they're starting to use Gemini 3 for front-end designs. So some examples here is Gemini 3 one-shotting this website, which is insane. It doesn't have that typical vibe-coded look of a website. Normally websites that are vibe-coded, it's very easy to tell they all have this same distinctive look to them. But this looks like you've paid like thousands of dollars for a design team. Another example is this Studio 6 landing page. It just goes. So this was done with Gemini 3.0, apparently one-shotted, but you never know who's telling the truth. Another thing, a lot of people are making games with it, so it does look like a very strong model for coding and sort of development tasks, which I'm not focusing on too much because my content is all directed to how this can be practically applied for your everyday business owners with an online business, as opposed to developers and coding and building apps. So a lot of people are saying that for user interface front ends, Gemini 3 Pro is just miles ahead of the other models. And for coding, GPT Sonnet 4.5 still remains a strong contender. As you can see here in the agentic coding, it still beat Gemini 3 Pro. So to conclude, the real unlocks with Gemini 3 Pro is it's able to understand different visual inputs like videos, photos, audio, etc. It's got a very, very large context window, so it can handle way more data and documents, words, books, dashboards, spreadsheets. It can handle way more input without forgetting or leaving things out, and it can handle like way longer chats with the larger context window than any other model. And it's stronger than all the other models for research, problem solving, anything involving complex multi-step tasks. But for writing, like persuasive writing, creative writing, etc., Gemini 3 is not a strong contender. I also tested Gemini side by side with a couple of other little more practical tasks. Like I use Claude as my main model, and it's very good at creating like little slide decks and actual like documents and stuff for me. So I said, I'm recording this YouTube video, help me build a little PowerPoint, here's the content. and then it built my PowerPoint branded with my branding. And I also gave the same prompt to Gemini 3 Pro, and I said, gave it pretty much the exact same prompt. Here's the content, and then it just gave me the outline. It didn't even give me any sort of file. And then I said, generate the actual PowerPoint file for me to download, and it just gave me a big Python script back, which I couldn't even do anything with. And then I said, I need to download this as a PowerPoint, and it gave me this link, which doesn't even lead anywhere. So first impressions with a couple like tasks like this, it still struggles. It goes to show that how smart a model is not the only factor in what makes it useful. Another factor is like the ecosystem that it's built in and the tools that it has access to. The way I'm sort of picturing this is that Gemini 3 is like this really, really smart dude just on a laptop, but he's like doesn't have that many like capabilities, you know what I mean? He doesn't have that many tools to use. Whereas Anthropic, they've really built their Claude model to have like so many different features like skills and MCPs to chat to other apps. And things like a PowerPoint skill, an Excel skill, a Word doc skill. So it's like a guy who's not as smart, but he's got like a 3-monitor setup and a notebook, and he's got more apps he can use. So I just thought that was interesting. Gemini still struggles with a couple of tasks that Claude can easily do. And then to recap on the coding side, from what people are saying, it's very, very good at front-end aesthetics, user interface, etc., but not as good as Claude at the back-end stuff. If you enjoyed this video so far and got value from it, you're going to love receiving one value-packed email from me each week. If you head to aiwithremy.com, I'll leave the link down below. You can sign up for free, and you can unsubscribe at any time if you don't like it. But each week I break down the news that matters for your work, the tools worth trying that are all tested by me personally, and I'll never put anything in here that is going to waste your time. I give you copy-paste prompts you can use, and 5-minute tutorials to help you be more productive and make more money. And you get access to exclusive tutorials and deeper insights that aren't available on my YouTube. So for example, this is one that I released this morning. I did a full breakdown on creating branded slide decks with Claude. And then prompt of the week, it was how to turn shitty iPhone or Mac camera photos into professional looking headshots that you can use for social media, YouTube thumbnails, etc. And I write them all by hand, so there's no AI generated slot. I'll leave the link down below, but that's it for this video. Hope you guys got value. But yeah, just try out Gemini 3 Pro. Just get it up. It's free in the Gemini app. Actually, I don't know about free. I think if you just have a Google Workspace account, you can use it. It's also available in the Google AI Studio. But just over the following week, some tasks that you'd normally give to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, etc., just give them to Gemini 3 Pro as well and see how they handle them, and you'll begin to get a feel for what tasks the model excels at and where it falls short. Cheerio, chaps. See you in the next one.